Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Welcome to Tuesday Night Live. Brian Barry Murphy, the era has begun. He sounds like a Welshman, but Brian Barry Murphy. And he is in-house. He is started. He's doing his bits. So we're going to have a little look at the squad. We're going to talk about what and who he needs, as well as a few other things. We're going to talk about the video which I put out earlier, discussing Tom Ramsholt, because I think it's a really interesting conversation. It's had a variation of different people's views and stuff. And I think I had one view on it, and I've kind of come around a little bit on the other side of it now. So I will discuss that a little bit. But as always, but as is rarely seen, because we are rarely together, but we are together this evening, is myself and Mr. RDE. How are you, mate?
Not bad. How's things?
Good, mate. I'm glad that the whole managerial search is over, because, quite frankly, it was kind of dragging on a bit and getting on my nerves. But I also believe that we probably got the right person.
Yeah.
So, like, it's interesting, right? Because I can see the benefits of Nathan Jones, experience, done it before, etc., etc. But I really felt like that would have been a short-term option. Like, I don't think he would have been there for years and years. I think it would have been, I don't know, it's difficult to put a number on it, but I don't think he'd have been there long before it all kind of kicked off between him and the owner. And then, like, Aaron, I said at the end of the season, I would have been happy with Aaron, because I felt like even though he had inexperience himself, the level of people that he wanted to bring in as coaches, and he wanted a structural change above him, I felt like that almost offset his inexperience. But as people will know by now, because I've said it a couple of times over the last week, like, obviously I put a video out on Brian Barry Murphy 8 months ago saying that the club should get him in whatever role, and they have. So I mean, I think, yes, it's been a drawn out process and it's been frustrating for a number of reasons, but I think it's a good selection, and I think it's an encouraging selection, because it doesn't feel like a very Cardiff City appointment, and that kind of gives me hope. But the club's got to do their part now, and they've got to support him. But where do you stand on him, mate? Because we haven't really spoke about it that much.
I'm happy. I think we needed someone who can work with young players.
Why are you muted? Or is that me? Go on, keep speaking.
I'm just saying we've needed someone who can work with young players in the squad, because we've had a young side now for the last 2-3 years, and no one seems to get the best out of, like, Ruben. No one can get the best out of Ashford. He has glimpses, but then he's a bit quiet. And he's got experience working with, Man City's academy. So you hope he brings that sort of mentality, how to talk to the youngsters, get them, progress them, kick them on to another level. And again, you've seen Birmingham City do it. They've gone and got a coach as a manager, and they've broken records. I mean, clubs have been doing this now. This has become a sort of an approach that clubs are taking now, is getting coaches who've worked with the best, bringing them the expertise and the knowledge with them, and seeing what happens. And I am happy, like you said, Nathan Jones comes in, he falls up with the board probably. I don't think we keep Brian Barry Murphy, because if he does a good job, other clubs will come sniffing. But that's what you want, though, because it means he's doing something right and the club is going in the right direction. So, again, first and foremost, get us back in the Championship. That's the first thing. Doesn't matter if you get promoted to play ugly football or what. You just get promoted, and then you can start looking at playing fancy football. But it's a bonus if he gets us promoted with fancy football. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah, it could be an exciting season, mate, really. Like, but the club have got to get it right. They got to give him the support that he needs. I do think, well, I've heard, as I said the other day, I do think there's more to come in terms of, obviously, there's backroom staff to come. I think we'll hear that towards the end of the week. I still think there will be a slight structural change. I don't think it, and I don't know for sure, but I don't think it's going to be like a sporting director that everyone wants. But I do think there will be a slight change in the structure of things on the football side. I don't know what it is. I'm hearing rumblings of people changing roles and stuff. Well, we'll wait and see. For me, I just want to talk about. I'm so fed up with the last month. I just want to talk about the football now, and like I'm quite looking forward to just talking about potential signings. I've got a few videos planned for some players that I'd like to see us look at. I got a video coming out on the assistant manager, which is quite interesting because I spoke to someone who was working in the Premier League last year, and Lee Riley is Lee Riley, yeah, is like so highly rated as a coach. So like you've got two coaches in there who have like got this extremely exciting and progressive profile and reputation. So it's like that's exciting. A bit that's what I was going to ask you about. So over the weekend, there was a few rumors going around and a few words that Paddy O'Connor was talking to us. I think we were talking to him, but it seems he's chosen to go to Reading. So I was talking to someone earlier, and I was like, I think from a profile point of view, he was perfect for what we need. 27, centre back, League One hardened. Very, very good defender. But then on the other side of it, and it's easy to say when he's not signing, on the other side of it, I wonder if we'll set our sights a little bit higher. And also, from what Brian Barry Murphy probably wants, I'm not sure if he had the ball playing ability. But I thought as a leader and just an out-and-out defender, he was probably and he was free. I thought he was a good profile, good age, good everything. But it is what it is. He's gone elsewhere. Players have the choice to go where they want, don't they?
I think that's probably for the best, though, because again, I think I'd rather him come in now and see what we've got before making a decision on adding players. Because he might say he did sign him now. He might spend the next 2 weeks and go, hang on, I got Dylan all over there. I got Darla. I can make a player to that. I don't need this lad now. So I'm not too bothered about missing out on players just yet. I'd much rather him come in, settle down, see what he needs, see what he's got. Because we've got a very technical side when you look at it. I mean, you look at the last 10 years, right? We've always had a long ball type of team. You could never play football. It was always lump it long, win a knockdown, try to get a goal. For the first time in a good while, we've got a very technical team that can play good football. You just need the margin to come in and implement that style and get them all moving in the right direction. So he might see players. He might look at Dowd and think I could put him as a winger rather than left back now and get more out of him than previous managers done. I can look at Robertson and get more out of him than previous managers done. So I'm not too bothered about missing out on signings just yet, if I'm honest.
No, I think, and that was one of the disappointments, mate, with sorry, I was just smiling at Josh's comment. That was one of the reasons why I was so obviously disappointed about being relegated anyway, but why I was pretty confident all the way through the season that we'd stay up was because you look at that side and there's some really, really good footballers. And I know it's easy when you've been relegated and when you've been as poor as we were last year, it's easy to go, they're all shit. They're all not up to it. But that's just not true. Like, they're good footballers. And, if Cardiff City died a death today and all those players just went into different clubs and, went elsewhere, there's quite a lot of the first team squad who would do perfectly fine. And probably some of them would go and excel in places. So, like you say, the technical ability is there. I think we lack pace. We lack a bit of athleticism and physicality in certain areas. But then you also look at it, we've got a couple of youngsters knocking on the door, and it'll be really, really fascinating. So, let's start with like the squad and that. I want to put you on a spot with a couple of hypotheticals first before we get into, we need this, we need that. Let's assume, and I don't think this is the case, but let's assume we haven't got any money to spend. So he's got to do a bit of wheeling and dealing. He's got to do loans and stuff like that. If you were only able to sell one footballer from our squad, who would you sell?
Ethan Horvath.
Really?
Again, if it's just get rid of anyone, it's just get rid of him. If you're selling, though, it depends. I mean, if you could get 10 million for Ruben and bring in 4 players and we're going to really impact the side, it's a trade-off you have to accept.
Of course.
I'm not saying I would want to sell him, but it's a trade-off you have to accept. I mean, do we realistically think we're going to get 2 million, 2.5 million for Callum Robinson? I don't know, mind. He's 30 years old now.
I do think you get a couple million for him just because he's a goal scorer. And I think they tend to have a bit of a premium anyway. And he's just signed a new contract. So I think from that point of view, I think you could probably get 2. I would take 2 million for him, mate. 30 years old.
I take it. Depends how it's structured because you know how clubs it's Preston is supposed to be linked to, and they run by Peter Ridsdale, so you know that'll be £500,000 up front, 1 million if they get promoted, and 500,000 when they win the Champions League or something.
Yeah, it's got to be 2 million guaranteed, even if it's in installments. But you definitely get it, like.
But then again, £2 million mind. If that's all you've got to spend there to strengthen with, because when you come to League One, most of the players that are available will go to Championship clubs. There's only a small group of us left then, and again, they're not mercenaries, but they will see Cardiff as a club that can pay more than, say, a Bradford. So they will demand twice as much in money terms. So £2 million might not be enough. You might need a bit more than that. So then comes the point of, do you sell an Ashford for a good few million? I mean, it's
interesting, isn't it? Like, the problem Cardiff has got as well is where last year, where they didn't play Dylan Lawler, that could really come back to bite him on the arse. Because at the moment, he only has a year left on his contract, which is a year we've had to trigger. They are talking about a contract. But, I mean, if they don't tie him down and a club comes in, Cardiff almost will be forced to sell him. And they will get absolutely fuck all for him because they played him twice.
Again,
and that's where you do pay the price for not giving the youngsters a go, no matter how highly they are rated. If you delay their first team opportunities, you haven't got a leg to stand on when a club comes in and says we're going to give you 700 grand.
Well, don't forget,
price like
if you're on the last year of contract, come January, you can sign a pre-agreement for clubs outside of England. So you can sign with a Scottish club. And I know there's been an Austrian club.
German clubs, mate, looking at him, wouldn't there? Do you reckon? I think there'd be some German clubs looking at Dylan Lawler in January if he's got no contract left in the summer. So it's a question then. Would you, let's say Dylan Lawler's not going to sign a contract, or he refuses, or our offer is bad and he's not going to, whatever. There's no contract agreement, basically, is what I'm saying. Do you sell him now for 800 grand, or do you keep him, play him, and then hope that because he's playing, he signs a contract in the season, but risk him going either on a free next year or in January, signing a contract with someone in January? What would you do?
Unfortunately, you have to sell, wouldn't you? You have to maximise your money, your income. Because look at Peterborough, turned down club offers in, was it January for Ricky J. Jones?
Yeah, from us as well.
He signed for the German side, which means now they get zero compensation, they get zero money from him. We can't afford to do things like that happen. It's a shock is they've let it run down this short, like the 1 year thing. So, you'd have to sell at that point. If there's no, again, what if we're in the playoffs, what I miss out, and then we lost a defender? That means we have to sell someone else in the summer then. Next year to cover the cost. So you'd have to sell now, wouldn't you, really, unfortunately?
Yeah, it is a tricky one. I really hope they can tie him down because I think he's going to be a really gifted and important player for us. And I think if we can get the right partner, he could be playing a lot of games this year. He could play 30 games a year because I think the club might be a bit worried that he can't play like 3 games a week at the moment, but like his sort of robustness and that. But he doesn't need to. If you've got Will Fish in there and you've got Darland in there and you sign an experienced centre-back or a leader centre-back, you don't need him to play 3 a week. No. You can play 1 a week, or you can play, 1 and a subs appearance or for an hour or whatever. But you can bring him in and you can manage him because ultimately, everyone wants to see Kip Pacquiao, everyone wants to see Louis Giles or Joe Bagan. You can't play a back 4 of under 22s. You've got to have some level of experience in there. I mean, well, you say that you can, but it would take some big balls, I think, to line up with like Giles at left back, Bagan and Lawler at centre back, and K Pacquiao at right back, or something like, or Fish and Lawler, you know, any combination of them. Like, I think that would take some real big balls to play that in League One.
I mean, don't forget, man, we've got Saturday, Tuesday coming up now with the league. We've also got the Virtue Cup now, which is a mini group stage first, then a knockout stage. FA Cup first round, which I think is November, or do you mean start November? You got the League Cup as well. So all of a sudden, there's an extra at least 6, 7, maybe 8 games added to our fixture list now. So you have to rotate. And I mean, it's a great chance for the youngsters to come through. I mean, you could always, like you said, if you didn't want to put 4 youngsters in the back 4, you could put a young right back, experienced centre half, a young left back, or switch around. You know, experienced youth. Sort of just mix it up a bit. We have to rotate now, so that's a must. I do think we need to bring 1 or 2 in, but I also think we need to ship out quite a few though first.
And this, I mentioned this yesterday, how difficult it is to bring in and get out 4 or 5 players in one window. And this is why I said with people have got to be patient with Barry Murphy, because he might come in and he might say, right, there's 5 players here, which they're not going to be able to play the way I want. They haven't got the right attitude, whatever. And he needs, in his head, he's like, right, those 5 have got to go. The chances of selling 5 players and agreeing a deal and the wages and the contracts and moving them on, and also bringing in 5 players in one window, I think is really difficult. I think people don't grasp how difficult that is. You know, they think of it like FIFA and Football Manager, where it's like, oh, I got to get rid of him and I'm going to move him in. And it's just not that easy. So I think you have to give him a bit of time. You've got to give him a few windows to get where he wants and what he wants in. You know, and that's where he's got to hit the ground running with the loan market, and he's got to use his contacts. And I thought, you know, we've got to try and use the free market agency as well. There's a couple of free agents knocking about who'd be clever signings. So, like I mentioned, Pordy O'Connor. I don't think, like, I'm not devastated that he's not coming to us. But if he had come to us, I'd have been like, yeah, that's quite a clever signing. He's a leader, good defender, he's free, good age. Except he's probably got a bit of resale value at the end of it as well. So, like, that would have been a clever signing to me. And I think we have to be clever with how we do it. I'm sure he'll bring in a few young loan players from Premier League or Championship clubs. Hopefully they'll be the right standard and ability and the rest of it. What do you feel that we need?
A spine. So you want to experience at the half, a leader at the back, like a Sean Morrison. You need something like that to come in, especially if you're going to be playing like Kapakio, Lawler. I mean, Bagan's a big experience now, but you still want a leader there. You do. Darlan has been a bit lightweight for the Championship. He might come into his own now in League One, but I still think we need a leader there. We definitely need a 6. We need a proper 6. We've never replaced Aaron Gunnarsson. And for the last, God knows how many years we've been saying we've never replaced him. Callum Chambers has moved into that position last season. And we all said he's done a better job there than defence. But that's only because he was so bad in defence that anything was an improvement. He's not a 6. He wasn't mobile enough to be the 6. The Sheffield Wednesday at home, Barry Barnum ran 40 yards unchallenged 3 or 4 times. I mean, Chambers couldn't get near it. You need a real 6 there. I do think we need a bit of pace on the wing. I know we'll probably have Isaac Davis play one wing, but he can't really last a season. Tanner, he looks exhausted after 60 minutes. I want a proper pacey winger. And then I suppose if Robertson does go, you do need a backup striker. But again, I've said this all last season. We need a keeper. That's got to be the biggest priority for me. That's got to be the number 1 target. Get a keeper in, because Ethan Horvath, I keep mentioning him every episode. I just don't rate him. He does not fill me with confidence. The defence looks ropey with him. He looks rather ropey. I like Anik. I really do. I think he's a solid number 2, and I'd probably be a solid number 1 in League One. But I'd like another keeper there, just to challenge him and push him on, because I just don't think Horvath's got it.
Yeah, like for me, the keeper thing is interesting, because I don't really rate either. But in the like, if you were like doing everything in order of what is urgently needs addressing this season now, I wouldn't put the goalkeeper at the top of the list. for League One. Like, I think they're both probably all right for League One. If we were still in the Championship, I think there would be a much more urgent need to move one in or get one in. It might be that Brian Barry Murphy wants a goalkeeper. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if we brought in a young keeper on loan, like we did with Kasper Schmeichel all them years ago. If he's got a keeper who he trusts and he likes, early 20s, that needs game time, who's good with his feet, but do you know the thing for me though is I understand he wants to play from the back and he wants to pass and the rest of it, but I need my goalkeeper to be a goalkeeper as well. Like, I need them to come collect some crosses and be able to shot stop and the rest of it, not just be good with their feet. So that's like where I am with the goalkeeping situation. I think I'd like to see. I think I would look to move Perry NG on and get a new right back in. For more than anything, mate, like with him and with Robinson, it's not necessarily that I think like they're terrible people and they're bad for the dressing room and they're toxic and this, that, and the other. I just think at this point it might be better for them and us to just part ways, because I think the dressing room needs some new voices and some new senior player voices. And I think Perry looks like his head's been not quite with it, probably for over a season now. And there can be all sorts of reasons. I know he was carrying a hip injury. There was rumours that he had wanted to leave the season before last and thought he was. And all these different things obviously play into it. For me, I would, if someone comes in, I would just move him on, shake his hand. Thank you very much. I think Robinson, I think you can get some money for. I think we need a really athletic midfielder. I would like to see either an out-and-out 6 who just sits in the middle of the pitch and just destroys and does the simple stuff, just wins the ball and, simple passes, or a proper old-school box-to-box midfielder. Like that sort of, like back in the day, you might be too young, but like when I was growing up, when I was a midfielder, and like it was like you had two midfielders in the centre, and it wasn't a case of like one was attacking and one was defending. It was just like if one goes, the other one stays, and vice versa. And the wingers obviously tucked in and did their bit. I kind of want to see someone. I wouldn't mind seeing someone like that who's going to play the deepest of the three, and is a bit aggressive and can get about and is, is good on the ball. Because I think Alex Robertson's at his best when he's sat a little bit deeper than where we played him last year. I don't think it's similar to Turnbull. I think the problem they have when they're in that 10 position is they end up with their back to goal a lot. And I don't think they're comfortable with it. I think they look so much better because they're so technically good and they've got good vision. And they're good at timing their like arrivals and their runs sort of as the ball's arriving. So they're better playing as like a number 8. So I'm hoping that we'll see Robinson back in that sort of number 8. But we've got to get some pace, mate, in the wide areas. We need at least one out and out winger. I saw someone, I think it was CCFC Insider, say earlier, the lad from Peterborough, because obviously they've lost with Jay Jones, they've lost Poku, both to European clubs. What's his name? Adoma, is it? I think I might be pronouncing that wrong. I'd have to go and look. But really skillful winger, lots of pace, had a lot of goal involvement, exactly what we need. But then I'd be tempted to only bring one winger in, but I worry about Isaac Davis's fitness. Like, if you could be assured that Isaac Davis was going to be there and be available for 30 games, I do think you could only sign one winger, and then you've got Isaac Davis, you've got Keane Ashford, Ollie Tanner, mate. He's another one I would sell. Oh, there you are. Yeah, Abraham Adoa.
But you mentioned about the proper 6 or a box to box. I mean, attitude aside, ideal box to box man at that club right now was Wintle. Like, attitude and everything else aside, the ideal box-to-box was him. He, to be fair to him, he runs his absolute bollocks off up and down the pitch non-stop, does a lot of dirty work. Problem is, though, there was a big issue with him when after he left. Then as soon as he went, Perry's down to his toys at the pram. Things were off there. Then he was celebrating on videos that Bullock was sacked and stuff, and that's unforgivable for me. That is, like I said at the time, you respect the club and the fans. The manager sacked him, these things are going bad, and you're celebrating it. Show some respect. But that taking that aside, he'd be the ideal 6 or 8 for us. I mean, box to box, ball in midfielder. I just don't think he's got a way back in the club now. I think he's going to be moved on, I think, and rightly so.
But then saying that, it's also with Wintle is he didn't play that much for Millwall last year. He also, he's 2 years older than when he last really played for Cardiff properly. I don't know. I'm not convinced he'd be good enough, let alone has the attitude to. I agree with you, mate. The lack of respect. He fell out with some fans, then he argued with some fans during the game, and that. Like, I just move him on. And you don't want a distraction. You don't want that toxic dressing room. You want everyone pulling in the same direction as Brian Barry Murphy now. And for me, anyone who's not on board with that, then they got to go. But who knows? But I think there's a couple of 6s who are available on free transfers that would be interesting signings from League One and the Championship. So, there's players about. Like, it's just whether the recruitment team have got it in them to go find them.
Well, again, he's got links to Man City's academy. I mean, we had Tommy Doyle from there. I'm sure him and is it Lee, his number 2 now, will be fully aware of which players are on the cusp of pushing into first team football now and ready for it. So we might have first access to those players that come on loan. So things like that, we need to take advantage of. But we were saying last night, he's been announced as the head coach, not the manager. That to me says that the club are signing players, you've got to work with them. It's how it normally works. I've seen other managers say before, Unai Emery is a manager. He has a saying who goes, who stays, the wage structure, who they buy, all these sort of things as the manager. You see, people like Poch, he said, I'm just a coach. The club buy players for me. I just work with what I've got. And that's my only worry with the club right now. Is this a case of Simic, Kanga, things like this are going to keep happening. It's going to be another manager gone. And it's not the manager's fault. He's just been given, these players to work with, not the players he needs. And that's my big concern right now.
I will recklessly speculate that the reason for the head coach title is not that. I understand why people think that that's the reason, because historically, not just at Cardiff, at other clubs, when a manager is called a head coach, they normally get the players that are given to them. I'm going to recklessly speculate that the reason for the title is not that.
I hope that's the case.
That it might be more to do with what's going to go on around him than anything. But I don't know. I couldn't say for sure. And look, at the end, going back to the players, mate, there's loads of young footballers in the Premier League who are absolutely crying out for first team football, who are very, very talented, from wingers to 6s. I'd even be very inclined to have a look at Bian Carey, mate, on loan. I would, because he's been tearing it up in the under 18s for United and obviously for Wales. He's been doing well. He needs to make that step up to men's football. Now, only the people at Man United and Wales will know whether that would be League One or League Two. Now, you've got Salic. At the moment, you've got Robinson and Isaac Davis and Kean Ashford and Simic. I'd hazard a guess that Simic is probably going to go. So I think, and Bian Carey can also play in that wide position. So maybe you could sign him as someone who's going to come in. He can play wide. He can play up front. There's loads of players. Arsenal got a couple of really players. Liverpool have got a couple. All of those sort of Premier League clubs have got players who are 18 to 21 who are absolutely itching for men's first team football. And it's if you've got the contacts to get them, and then if those clubs trust you as a club and as trust the manager to look after them. The one good thing I would say for Cardiff is they have got quite a good reputation for looking after young players when they come on loan and giving them time and playing them and looking after them. Add into that, then you'd think, his reputation and contacts will help with that as well. So it's going to be interesting, mate, because I don't think Cardiff need loads of players to be able to go up this year. I think they need 3 important additions now. And then I think if you get those 3 and then work on, right, well, if he goes, I can replace him sort of thing. I would go, I think if they can get a centre-back, a midfielder and a winger, then I think they're okay. And then if a Robinson leaves, then you replace him, or if an NG leaves, you replace him. And do you see what I mean? Like, I think with those 3 players, you give yourself enough if they're the right profile of players. So, like, you need the centre back to be experienced, you need the midfielder to be athletic, and you need the winger to be an old school winger, almost very aggressive and pacey. And like you said, everyone's saying about making the squad smaller. Well, we've already lost all those players who are out of contract. And we've got some additional games this year. Now, I would like to see the youngsters get those opportunities in those extra games, but you also need to be, you need to have enough of a squad to deal with the multiple games a week.
But if you look at individual positions, we're heavily bloated in certain areas. I mean, out wide, we got Tanner, Chris Willock as well. We got who plays on the wing. So that's another one who can go. You got, there's 2. Davis, Ashford, they play out wide. We are quite bloated in certain areas. I mean, midfield now, we got King coming back. We'll have Rinamoto if he does sign a deal. Robertson, Turnbull, Wintle, Rolls is 6 centre midfielders. I'm probably missing 1 or 2 as well. Up top, we got Keane Tete, Simic. I mean, we've got to get rid of the dead wood, and unfortunately, there's far too much dead wood at the club. Like you said, though, get your 3 key players in, 3 or 4 key players in now, then work with what goals you can look to replace. But for me, there's far too much that needs to go.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. But I just mean in terms of getting the squad ready for the start of the season. If it was me, I would get my 3 in and then work on getting some out and replacing them as you go, sort of thing. Because then, like say, for instance, Callum Robinson goes, you could easily get a lone winger or a lone striker in to cover that position if you've already spent your budget on those 3 signings previously. But let me run through a couple of players. I might not run through every player, but I'll run through as many or as a few of them. I want you to tell me if you would sell them, loan them, or keep them, basically, and a little reason why. Perry and G.
See, I would be cheeky, I would. I'd go to Hull and say, give us £1 million and Corey Dramer, and you could have Perry and G. And I would tell them that he was Championship right back of the year the previous season. He's been player of the year twice for us in a row. Is just sell him as much as we can and get Corey Dramer in. That pace on the right-hand side, hands down all day. I'd kill for that back at Cardiff. Mm-hmm. I'd sell it. If I couldn't get that, though, I'd definitely sell him and try to use the money to try and get Corey Dramer if I had my way.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd sell NG.
Yes, but Darland.
I mean, we paid $3.5 million for him. We're not getting that back. You'd have to keep him. You've got to keep him, unfortunately.
I think on the ball he looks all right, and I just think he struggled with the physicality. But you know who else? Yeah, but you know who else did struggle with that when they first come was, Glenn Lewins and others. They come from Scandinavia and wherever, and they just find it a bit of a shock to the system. Give him a bit of time.
Well, I did Millwall away this year, and I think every time the ball came over the top, he looked shell shocked how quick they were closing him down. They were bullying him off the ball. Again, he has to toughen up. It is a difficult league to come into. And especially when things are going bad, you lose week after week after week. 1 week you're playing, the next week you're dropped, then you're playing again. That's got to be tough. If there's ever a time to step up now, it's this season. So, and again, I don't think you get $3.5 million back from right now. So I'd keep him for a year and see how he does.
He was in good form as well before his injury, and then he never quite got back up to that level. He got pinned so much by strikers. I noticed that a lot when the ball was coming in the box or in the air. He would just get pinned, and he couldn't. He didn't seem to know, or he didn't seem to have the know-how to get out of that. And I don't know whether it was a strength thing or he was just like a shock to the system. Like he'd never seen a striker be allowed to get away with that much physicality, sort of thing. So
on the ball, though, he seems like a proper ball carrying centre half. He'd be like John Stones. Yeah. He can bring the ball into midfield and then pass it off. So again, if you get that working right, and get him adapted to this the rough and tumble of the English football leagues, you've got a decent centre half in your hands. But it's just you just can't give him too long and keep every year be saying this is the year he has to do it now. So I'd keep for a year, see how he does in League One.
Yeah, I'd have him and Keane Ashford on a big strength and conditioning job this summer, like in the gym, bulking up. Ryan Wintle.
Sell. Again, he lost all respect for me when the moment he started making them videos.
Yeah,
celebrate the manager gets sacked. Like I said, if you're happy, be happy in private. Celebrate in private. That's fine. But celebrate like that, again, we've just lost the manager because we are struggling, and you're celebrating, and it's like, no, I'm not happy with that. Celebrate, Del.
Joe Rose, would you give him his contract or no?
I'd keep Rose simply because of his versatility. He can play left back if needed, wide in midfield. He can play the 6. If we ask him to stand in front of the back 4 and just do a backfield role or ping balls about, I'd keep him for his versatility. However, only if there's room in the budget for it. Like, I don't want us missing out on another player because we spent our money keeping Rolls, if that makes sense. So it's one of those.
Di Turnbull.
He didn't really feature that much, did he, last year? He had a spell, a run of games, and he looked really good. Then he was injured, and he came back, and he wasn't quite at it, and he was injured again. Then he came back. I'd keep him, but the problem is, if you do bring a 6 in, then you've got Robertson and him both battling out for the same position. So it's.
But could he be a good backup to Robertson, do you think?
He could, but would he be happy sitting on the bench every week? And would you get the best out of him if he's on the bench most weeks? Do you mean? I'd like to keep him, but we've got to find a place for him in the team.
Eli King. So a lot of people have been telling me that they think he should be our number 6 next year. I reserve judgment because I haven't seen enough of him. So tomorrow, actually, I'm going to watch some videos of him from last year, and I'm going to do a little video on could he be the answer to our midfield problems. But what would you do?
I'd sell, unfortunately. I think we've got other youngsters coming through and look a bit better. I mean, Joel Colwell's coming back. He could play in that 8 or the 6. If worst case scenario, you got Rolls who could play the 6. If you can get a bit of money for him, I'd sell. I mean, he went to League One. I don't think he set League One alight. I think he was in and out of the team as a Stevenage. He struggled to laid down the place there. I'd probably look to move on, unfortunately. And we got rid of Mortar coming back as well. Well, if he signs, we can play that position. So there's another player ahead of King. So I'd look to move him on.
What about Callum O'Dowda? Controversial one, this, because I would take the money.
It depends.
But it's not a reflection on him as such as it's more a reflection on he doesn't want to play left wing, and I'd rather see Baig and Giles at left back, if that makes sense.
I want him on the wing. I think he looks better going forward. He's so much better going forward. Working with the overlap. But then he's not the top left back. We got beat quite off. Not easy, but a decent winger will turn him inside out. So if there's money there,
you've got to take it, haven't you?
How much is it? Again, his age. How much is it? And no offense to me, he can't do a full season or get injured.
No.
He picks up his serious injuries throughout the season. So if there's money on the table, thank you for everything. I know I've actually loved you. Didn't think I'd love it out as much as I did, but if there's money on the table,
I thought his attitude and his behaviour and the way he conducted himself last year was absolutely exemplary. And I don't say that I would sell him through like, you know, a criticism of him necessarily. I just think it might be the right time.
At the end of every single game, the only one who came and apologised to the fans at the end of every single game, only him. Yeah. The others would half would walk off the tunnel, the others would half wave and walk away. He'd apologise every single time. Me and the boys seen him after the game in his car, and they looked like he was in front of tears. After we drew, might be the Oxford game we drew, and he's just in tears in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it shows how much he cares, like, and it'd be sad to see him go, but if there's money on the table.
For me, like him and Rawls particularly, and probably Rinamoto as well, but to a lesser extent. But him and Rawls, I'm kind of at the point where, like, I think it's the right time to move on. But that's not necessarily a reflection on them, more a reflection on Cardiff's need to evolve as a team and become, like, we were so slow last year, or the last couple of years, our build-up play and the lack of movement off the ball. And unfortunately, I think both of those players have kind of contributed to that in different ways. So it's just an opinion. Like I said, I've got nothing against either. And I think both can be good squad players next year. But the wages they're on, can you justify them as bench players? I don't know.
But put it this way. If I had a choice, Willock goes or Dowder goes, Willock goes every single day of the week for me.
Yeah, 100%.
If I got the choice, I know Dowder keeps the captain's armband as it stands. But yeah, otherwise he's gone. Willock goes to me and Dowder plays. I don't care if he doesn't want to play wing, you're a winger. You're the most excited. Towards the back end of the season, most of our attacks came through him, and he was a left back. So,
I got a controversial one for captain. Do you know who my captain and vice captain will be next year?
For next year,
from the players who are available. If you can guess the captain and the vice captain, then I'll give you a bonus.
Your vice captain. I mean, I'm looking at it. We got no leaders, and we've noticed this for a while. There's no one else shouting, no one else getting stuck in.
So I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a clue. The vice captain, I would give to them in an attempt to help them get the best out of themselves, which makes it pretty obvious. And the captaincy, I would give to someone who looks like he gives a shit.
So Ruben will be your vice captain.
Yeah.
Sounds like. The only one who can say he looks like he gives a shit after all that, really, it'll be Salek. But I'll take a bonus. But I don't want to strike as my captain. I want my centre half or my midfielders captain.
Yeah, but you don't have to have it, do you? Like, if they're leaders, they're going to be leaders, whether they wear the captain's armband. Because also, sometimes bringing in a centre back and then giving him the captain's armband, that can disrupt the group. But then Cardiff just need leaders overall, which is one of the reasons why I'm a little bit like about Rawls and O'Dowda, is because if you do take them out of the squad, you are literally got no leaders, and that's the only reason. But I would keep them as a squad option, right? The Dylan Lawler's also a shout, by the way, for vice captain if he signed a new contract, because he's captained all the way through his things. He's that type of character, but
I think you do need to get him regular first team football before you do that. Though.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not saying he's not good enough, but I think the FA Cup sort of we've seen the team performance through rose-tinted glasses in that FA Cup performance against Villa. I mean, Horvath looked like a decent number one against them, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I had people who don't support Cardiff telling me, your keeper's not bad, see? And then you have to go back next week and see the performance in the league from him and stuff. So I think you do need to bleed him through to the first team now, get him exposure. Then you think look at get him captaincy or vice captaincy and see how he does with that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Right. What about Callum Robinson?
I'd sell. I think again, if you can get if it is £2 million for him, why not sell? It means that we are going to sell one of the younger players that we can develop and get more out of. He goes missing too much for me. I don't think the football suited him too much last year. I think he did struggle with that football. When he played at number 9 for us, he was like a false 9. He was dropping so deep to pick the ball up.
Yeah.
When he go
and
forward,
there's no one ahead. I was just going to say on that, he really affected Ruben's game, didn't he, when he was playing as that 9. But when he ran in behind, that was when Ruben had his better spell, and like it's a team game, isn't it? And sometimes as a striker, you run the channels and you might not get a ball, but it creates space for the wingers or the 10 and the midfield.
You could see it though last year. He was coming so deep to pick the ball up because he wasn't getting they were feeding him the ball enough. But when he did come deep to get the ball, he looked ahead of him. There's no one in front of him. There's no one to pass to. He's the furthest man forward. So something's got to change.
My problem with Robinson is he's very streaky. Like he'll score 5 games in a row and then he won't score for 10 games. Then he'll score 5 games in a row. Then he won't score for 10 games. My problem is in those 10 games where he doesn't score, he offers little to nothing. And actually, in terms of the whole team dynamic, he's probably detrimental to it. And I think that's a problem. I haven't been impressed with his attitude when things get tough. When things are going well, which hasn't been very often, but when it was going well, in Bullett's first season, he was fine. He's running around and he's working hard. When things are tough and your backs are up against the wall, I don't like his attitude at all. And I think he's caused an issue for other players at times by the way he kind of does his thing. But so I would sell, but that's just me. I also don't think he gets him. Like if you just as the squad is now, just very quickly, like if you think of your best 11, does he get in?
No, not really. I mean, Sarek, I think on form is ahead of him.
Doesn't get in on the left. Doesn't get in the 10.
But again, it's one of those, mind, where last year we were so poor on the attack.
Yeah.
That if we had a bit more fluidity and stuff, he might have scored 20 goals. He might have a 25. He might have gone on, and charged up. No, he might have scored a bag load. The problem was we were so poor in attack that it's a credit to him, to be fair, that he got so many goals as he did. But again, he's 30 years old. He's had quite a few bad injuries. Now his back, his always problems, his hamstrings. At 30 years old, if you can get 2 million for him, it's nothing against him as a person. As a club, you've got to think we can use that £2 million and bring someone young through.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just think the senior players in this group, I'm not blaming them for the relegation or, it's not all on them or anything like that. I just think that we need new ideas, new voices, a new leadership group in there, maybe a younger leadership group in there, but we need a change. And that's why I would sell NG and Robinson and Wintle and O'Dowda. I'm very, 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 very much on the fence with. O'Dowda played 40 odd games last year, though, mate. So I know what you mean, games? But I'm not sure. But he played 40 games. I don't think that counts as injury prone, does it? But I know what you mean, because before that he had been very kind of in and out all the time. But he's not a left back, mate. For me, that's the long and short of it. Is if he wants to play left back, then I think we sell him because he's not good enough to be the left back. That's what it comes down to for me.
He's not. But again, I remember the Swansea game he goes off injured. I think there's another game he goes off injured. He doesn't. Again, you could start 40 games and finish 10 of them. I mean,
also, by the way, sorry, just to interrupt you, his set pieces are terrible.
You know what? I'm not going to just blame him, but I think set pieces at the team last year were dreadful. I seen a meme the other day. How can a Sunday League player go out, get smashed on the weekend, do a bag of coke, and then on a Sunday put a perfect ball in, and a professional footballer who trains every day for his life, all his life, can't even whip a corner in. It's ridiculous. We were so poor at set pieces. Mate, and so static. It was fucking ridiculous.
The set pieces, the speed of the passing and the lack of movement off the ball was embarrassing last year. Like my boys' team, under 16s, was better in all aspects, like movement off the ball, the speed at which they moved the ball, and their set pieces, all better, mate. And that's not even an exaggeration either. And don't get me wrong, the quality is probably, of course, is levels above. But I just mean in terms of consistently doing something with it. Like
our set pieces, what's frustrating is we'd take 3 or 4 corners, fail to beat the first man at each one. Then we'd pass it short and try and work the ball in the box rather than actually cross it in. We a player standing on a keeper, the keeper will just drop to the floor and straight away the ref will blow his whistle. You're thinking, it's coming. Everyone else is stood on the penalty spot, stood still. There's no movement. Sheffield Wednesday are home. They get one set piece, they score from the corner. Why? Because they're runners in the box. We all stood around watching them. It's so frustrating. Set pieces have been poor for a while now. It's embarrassing. I mean, we couldn't beat the first man from a corner. How bad is that? Like, this are professionals.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Right, last couple of names I want to throw at you before we just finish off on Tom Ramasolt. Ollie Tanner.
I'd sell. I think
I'll drive him.
I like the guy as well, but he's no offense to me. He's lived off a Swansea goal for me. And then he had a Bristol goal. In between that, he's not done anything else. In between those things, he runs for 60 minutes, and that's it. After 60 minutes, he's done. There's nothing else. He sort of cuts inside a lot as well, which is kind of easy to read. The same thing with all the wingers, man. We never seem to try and take the man on the outside and put the ball in. We always seem to cut back inside. That's frustrating. If we can get money for Ollie Tanner, that'd be a brilliant investment. Sign for what, 40,000 from non-league, sold for $1 million. If that's the case, that'd be fantastic for the business. But yeah, again, I think there was videos of him drinking as well, going on social media after losing games. I don't begrudge players having a social life, but have some decorum, some respect. Like, we're going down in without a fight, like, and you're all out down a laugh, get a wanker on the weekend, laughing about it, and it's just not.
So Tanner, mate, this is just my opinion, and yours might differ. So I want to make that clear. This is only my opinion, and it's only based on his footballing ability. But he seems like a guy who has the ego of Jay Bothroyd, but the quality of Jet. Like, do you know what I mean, mate? What is he? Tell me, like, what has he done to have the ego and attitude that he has, that he doesn't have to work hard, and he doesn't have to track back, and he doesn't have to mark up his man at the back post, and he doesn't have to help his fullback and all this, like, doesn't have to even be fit when he's coming into the biggest games of the season, and then go to the manager and moans why he's not starting.
But it's the frustrating thing for me with him, like, is not only does he live off that Swansea goal and the Bristol, right, and then the Bristol goal, but it became a sort of scapegoat for Ruben. Or Ruben's not playing well because Tanner's not there.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, but he doesn't do nothing when he does play, so I don't understand why he needs him. I just think it became like too much of a not party scene, but too much of an easy time. There's no accountability there last year. If someone had a bad game, I don't expect players to rip each other's heads off. But Sean Morrison said it. When the dressing room needed to be sorted, it was him, there was Bamba, there was Gunnarsson, there was Peltier, there was leaders there. They would all sort it themselves. I think you look at this year, you're thinking he probably got Rolls, maybe Ramsey if he's not on crutches as he always is. I know Dowd are trying to sort it. And when you've got this many, not giving a shit, it's hard to actually stamp your authority there.
Yeah, like, I get really frustrated with Ollie Tanner because I do think he's got ability, but I don't think he's got a mentality, mate. Like, and look, it's difficult because I don't want to just go all like personal and stuff like that. So I want to keep it on football and just say I don't think we've seen the best of him, and I think his attitude sometimes is not as it should be. And what I mean by that is, quite often what you'll see is, and I think we've actually talked about it in the post-match shows and analysis and stuff like that afterwards, is like a couple of times where the ball's gone to his opposite number on the back post, they've had a tap in, and he's stood like 30 yards out just looking at him. Like, you can see it, he's just watching it.
Yeah.
Now, there's two things with that. Is one, he just can't be bothered, and that is a bad attitude. Or, and I've said this before, some managers will say to certain players that they can cheat a little bit with their tracking back and it's quite often in the wide areas, players who've got a bit of speed. So I'll give him that we're not privy to the instructions that he's given. I will say as well, in his defense, when he came back from injury at the end of the season, I cannot fathom what we were doing putting him on the football field, because there was no way he was fit enough to be there. And I get we were fighting relegation, but there was other players who could have played. And it wasn't like we kept putting him in off the bench. We started him in a couple of games, and he just looked like he just was still injured. Like, and it just, I didn't understand that at all.
I won't say that I don't think he doesn't care, by the way. I've seen the comp there.
And that's why I wanted to clarify as well. And just to clarify something else quickly. Sorry, mate. I'll shut up now. Go on. What I'm saying about is, because I agree, his defensive stats are pretty good for tackling and retrieving the ball. My point is, like, when it gets to, like, he'll come back or to a certain degree and double up with, they say, the fullback, and then his winger will run off the back of him, and that's the point. He doesn't follow the run, and then it's just a simple ball down the line or like the back post, as they say. And look, it's all opinions. My thing is, this year, I think we need to get rid of the people in that dressing room who've had a bad attitude at any point last year. That's just my view. That's not just any one individual. That's anyone who's not been on board or hasn't put the work in or whatever.
Like I said, it's just, I don't say he doesn't care. It's just, when you're losing week after week after week, and you see videos then circulating of the players out drinking, I understand they have a social life, but it just seems a bit, I don't know, we've lost another game, we're out getting smashed again, as if there's not a care, because if you go down, you're going to move on. I'm not saying that's what he's thinking, but that's how it comes across as fans. I mean, when you're winning, no one bats an eyelid. If you want to go out and go in the back room of a restaurant or something with your mates and have 3 or 4 bottles of wine or a couple of pints of their food. But it just seemed to be a party. Watch us go down, and it just hurt us all. And I
will say as well, mate, is Barry Murphy might get the best out of someone like Tanner, because as I said at the start, like, I do think he's got the attitude. I do think he's got the ability. It's just sometimes whether it's his mentality. And I would also say that if we had to keep either Willock or Tanner, I would probably keep Tanner over Willock.
Oh, yeah.
Someone just said Sean Morrison was out drinking all the time. Yeah, but Sean Morrison did it on the pitch week in, week out.
Yeah,
that's the difference. And like, it is what it is. Like, it's interesting, like, because some people think we should keep him, some people think we should sell him. I would sell him if we got a good offer, because I think you could get someone who's more consistent in. But I also agree with someone, I don't know who was now, I've lost it, about he looks like he'd be a good wing back. I agree with that, because he's got quite a similar build to Luke Shaw. And I wonder whether that stocky build brings you can cause some of the injury issues, if that makes sense. If you look at like Luke Shaw, Tanner, Rooney had that sort of stocky sort of physique, didn't he? And he used to pick up injuries here and there. I just wonder whether that's a contributing factor.
I don't like the wing back thing, because the wing back means we're playing a back five.
But I don't think. Sorry, I was going to say, I don't think Barry Murphy plays a back three often. When the one time I've seen him do it, he did it as it was a 3. It was like a 3 and a very pronounced sort of 4, and like it was different to what we've done. And ultimately, right, you can't get rid of everyone, and you can't do it all at one window. And I don't think he's someone that I'm looking at it and I'm going, he's got to go immediately as quick as possible. He's just one that I think has got a lot to prove, shall we say?
That's fair enough. Yeah, but again, if a tidy money comes in for him, you have
it's
to
good
look,
business, isn't it?
You have to consider his business, yeah. And this is what it is: it's business at the end of the day. And none of us know what's going on behind the scenes. He might have said, "I want to leave." I'm not saying he did. He might be looking at other clubs. He might not be. None of us know. So that's the thing.
Yeah, he might have. It was Rocco Simic, mate.
I honestly couldn't tell you.
No one knows. Is he
under
real?
21s looks decent, but there's a difference between under 21s and first team football, but then he's played first team football for one of the Salzburg team or Red Bull teams. Champions League experience, but then he can't get outside to fight relegation. Now, there was Bullet, didn't play him. There was Rhys, didn't play him. There was Ramsey, didn't play him. The fact he threw all his shirts that he'd had all season to the crowd at the end of the game, I think he probably thinking, what the f have I signed you for? None of the managers wanted me. The ownership wanted me. Again, if we get the same money back for him, I'd just sell. If they say you pay $2 million for him, use $2 million, just go. Nothing against him, but if no one wants to play him, what's the point of keeping him? It stinks of the Etienne Veronica, I think, years ago in the Malky. Club signed him. Malky didn't want him. So he's sitting in reserves and picked up his paycheck over like 3 years. It's pointless.
The thing with Simic, do you think it was a bit naughty that he didn't get on in that last game of the season when we were already down?
I think it was naughty against Sheffield United. We're chasing a game and we're putting defenders on rather than a striker to try and nick a goal. Again, it's 80 minutes on the clock. You're thinking, right, the game's over, we've lost. Goal difference isn't a big thing for us right now because we're desperate for points. I've got a striker here on the bench. If I give him 10 minutes, I might see something from him. But we put a defender instead. There was ample opportunities to play him. And we just didn't bother. Ramsey didn't put him on. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the club said he's got to be part of your matchday squad. He has to be part of the matchday squad, and that's why he was on the bench, and there was no intention of playing him. I don't know if it was like Bullet, Rhys and Ramsey all making a stand against the club and the way it's run. In that sense, like they're not playing to play a youth signing for us. But it's just, I don't.
It is weird, isn't it? That he scored goals in the Champions League and he's never played a minute for the first team for Cardiff. It's odd, isn't it?
For all we know, though, it could be one of those things where it's $2 million now, and once he makes his first championship appearance this year, you got to pay an extra 100,000 or 500,000.
Yeah,
we're not going to pay that. We'll play him in the cups. We won't play him in the league again. But again, it's absolutely baffling.
Yeah, it's a weird one, mate. I didn't like when he was throwing his shirts he threw all his shirts into the crowd, didn't he, after the last game?
Yeah.
He was like chucking them all, like his trading tops, his thing tops. And I just thought, like, you know what you're doing there. You're drawing attention to yourself when we've just been relegated. So I didn't like it because I thought he made it about him. But if he's frustrated and he's pissed off and then he's played in that last game, we're already down. He's thinking, this is my chance. I'm finally going to get to play. But apparently, someone, CCF Insider just said it's something they do in Europe where they throw all their shirts in the crowd at the end of the season. So maybe it's as simple as that. But who knows, mate? Here's a question. Who do you think we'll see play first for Cardiff City? Simic or Tucinoda? Simic, I reckon.
Tucinoda, I think, was signed for the Kovac side. I'm not quite 100% sure, but we're at the end of the transfer embargo. They couldn't pay to sign anyone, so loans were acceptable as long as there's no wage covered and no loan fees. So then we signed him, and because I think they did the same for Kenzaho. They signed Kenzaho, then we had him from them for free, I think, didn't we?
Okay.
I think that's how it worked. We run the embargo.
Right. Very quickly, mate, before I want to go, but because I've had 2 hours sleep. But let's I do want to discuss the video I put out earlier. So I put out a video earlier just basically discussing the pros and the cons of Tom Ramsert and if he stays with Brian Barry Murphy. I've had a few varying people speaking to me, telling me, some people saying he's going to be part of his coaching team and some people telling me he's not. Different reasons. Like, where do you stand on it? Would you be massively offended if he's part of his coaching team, or do you think it signals one way or the other? Do you think it doesn't, or do you think it's ultimately it should just be down to whether Brian Barry Murphy wants it or not?
I thought he was put back to the academy with Darren Purse. That's what I thought happened. He got moved back down. I mean, it's one of those where if you got you want to keep the best young coaches. If the manager changes, the fact is, though, none of us know what his actual role with the club was. Was it first team coach? Was it attacking coach, defensive coach? None of us know. He seems to survive every manager sacking, but none of us know what he actually does. He's branded a coach. So it's just that it is. I mean, if he stays, you're probably thinking he's been told he's got to stay. If he goes, it's like, well, the manager didn't want him. But again, you can't. It's hard to tell with our club. It's just so hard. I mean, like I said, last thing I heard, he was back in the academy with Darren Purse. So I don't know if that's the case, but I just don't know.
Yeah, so he finished the season with the academy. So I had got told a few days back that there was discussions about him going into back into the first team group, but they are aware of the optics of it, like of him surviving every manager. So they are aware of it, but he is on a first team wage as well. So like my response to that was, look, if he's on the coaching staff through merit, then have Brian Barry Murphy talk about it and say, I wanted Tom Ramosat as part of my coaching staff because X, Y, and Z. If he's just there because he's on a first team contract, have some balls and pay him off and move on. But for me, I spoke to someone who's a coach from Greece, and they were saying like he's got a wicked, a really, really, really high reputation as a coach in Europe and stuff. Like he's really highly rated as just a genuine coach. Like the club rate him. Now I know there's speculation about why he's always there, like direct, and like the speculation is that he's like close to Kenneth Cho. Yeah, he's close to Kenneth Cho and blah blah blah. But like, my only thing which made me think maybe it wouldn't be the worst idea if he stays is I thought of it like this. Brian Barry Murphy is a fairly young, relatively inexperienced coach. His assistant manager is very young. I have heard, I don't know names, but I've heard that the rest of the coaching staff is quite young as well. Like they're all like exciting young coaches from what I was hearing. Like I might be wrong because they haven't been announced yet, but I'm just telling you what I've kind of heard on the grapevine. If they're all young, is it the worst thing to have him in there as an experienced head who knows the players, knows the squad, knows the club, knows the academy in terms of bringing young players up? Because obviously he worked with the academy prior to being with the first team. So he knows those young players. He knows Gavin Chesterfield and Darren Purse. And so he kind of like, he could be that link for Brian Barry Murphy to help him choose which academy players are ready. And I don't know. I'm very undecided on it because up until I made that video and sort of researched it a little bit, I was very much in the same camp as you. Is like, he's got to go. Like he's survived all these managers. He's got to go now. That at this point, we've got to have a clean slate and a fresh start.
I'm not saying necessarily he has to go, but again, they say he's a highly rated coach, right? I don't know what that means because can you honestly say we look better on the attack last year? Do we look better in the defence last year? Do we look better in the middle with the ball on the feet last year? Do we look better at set pieces last year? We look worse in every department. Now, if you've got a highly rated coach, surely you're seeing improvements in players in anything. It just seemed everything seemed to look worse last year. And it's been getting like this the last few years. And again, I'm just thinking if he was that standout coach, I mean, as if Portsmouth away, he was on the touchline because Rhys had a touchline ban. We looked absolutely dross that game. There was no urgency. It was so poor. One of the worst performances I've seen that was Pompey away. And he just stood down the side, silent on the touchline. And I want my manager to be vocal. I want him to shout out instructions. Again, if he's a coach, what's he coach like? Is he attacking coach, defensive coach? What's his role? Because none of us know. And I'm not being funny. It's just so poor last year. None of them can say they improved or did the job properly, I don't think.
I think like in the cold light of day, and I'm kind of thinking about it now. I wonder whether like it's better to just let Brian Barry Murphy, just let him have whoever he wants, and just maybe it's time, just the same as what I said about the senior voices in the squad. Maybe it's just time for younger, different, exciting, different leaders, different coaches, different everything. Like we have to do something different. We keep saying we've got to change things, we've got to rebuild, we've got to do things differently. And maybe, you know, I don't like calling for people to be removed from their jobs. Like at the end of the day, I don't understand me. Like, but maybe find him something else to do within the club, or go and put him in charge of Kortvik's coaching or something like that. Like, just maybe move him somewhere else. But if Brian Barry Murphy wants him, then that's a different story. If Brian Barry Murphy says, no, I want him to be on my coaching staff, that's different, because then I think you've got to give him what he wants, no matter what. And then it becomes but then I also think if that's the case, they've got to get Brian Barry Murphy to come out and speak about that and why and the rest of it, because the rumors and the conspiracy theories are already there, and they're only going to get louder if they appoint him back to the first team coaching staff and then don't address it. Do you know what I mean? This
again, it's up to the manager. If the manager says, "Look, I want to work with him. I want him in my side. I can make him more productive with the players." And again, the manager's choice. Can't say yeah. But at this rate, we don't do nothing for the club, do we? Let's be honest. The last message we really had was Gavin Chesterfield and Steve Bowley making a statement. I mean, Ken Chu looks like he's been enjoying himself the last 2 weeks. Bloody hell. But where's he been?
I think there was a hidden message in him being in those photos. Like maybe giving a bit of pushback to the trust and people that he's still the CEO.
I'm not being funny. If this changes, just make him your car salesman and keep him there. Like, this is ridiculous now. What's the point of having him there? I mean, things I've heard the last few weeks about him is ridiculous. Just go, like.
Right, mate, I want to wrap up. I'm just going to very quickly address a couple of things. Jamie says, where's Rhys now? I can tell you exactly where Rhys is now. He's getting primed and ready for his next adventure or his next conversation. If you can, please do become a member. And if you're not a member, then yeah, please do. And if you are a member, make sure you check your emails from yesterday at 3:45 in the afternoon, because we sent out the first Cardiff City World limited edition football shirt. You can only purchase it for the next 7 days. So get your orders in. We've had sold a few already. And please do get those orders in and all that stuff. Thank you very much to the people who've already ordered them. They're going to be very limited. Like once that window is closed, they're gone forever. So yeah, that's cool. We got loads of stuff coming. Be a couple of videos out tomorrow. I think we're going to have a 10-minute video out tomorrow lunchtime, and then there'll be like a half-hour one out in the night. I don't think I'm doing the radio show tomorrow, but obviously I'll let you all know on the old social media. Got the new next episode of The Rebuild is out this week. We got a look at Cardiff's new assistant manager. What else we got, Rhys? What else we got? Interview with Cohen Griffith is coming out soon as well. I might put that out tomorrow if I got time to edit it. That'd be good. There's loads and loads of stuff coming. 7 days a week, baby. As always, really appreciate you all the comments and that. And I appreciate Rhys for joining me. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
You're back on Saturday.
Yeah. I just can't wait for football start now. Honestly, there's nothing to talk about, is it?
Well, I think no way I can say that. Yeah, I think then they're going to name the new or the rest of the backroom staff on Friday or Thursday, and I think the new kit's going to be out soon as well. So you'll have some stuff to talk about. Like the new kit's been shambolic in itself, but I can't talk about that on there.
Honestly,
I ain't getting sued.
Don't forget the last kit they had. Was it the 125th year kit? Only the home shirt had the bluebird on it. We had a green one, well, a grey one for charcoal, which is not that colour, with green on. And we had a sky blue one because of the river, I think they said. They look like Cardiff City, and I don't think I've ever seen the water that blue in my life. So,
side note, right? Do you reckon, like talking about the YouTube of like Cardiff City, right? The official YouTube. Don't you think it's poor that they don't do more stuff with the players and with the new manager? Like, feel like they could have done so much with Brian Barry Murphy over the next couple of days and stuff, and it's just very like unimaginative, you know.
That's the whole club, though. Let's be honest. It's shambolic. There's so much wrong there. There's so much they can do for fan engagement, and they don't fucking bother. Then they tell us then that they are trying, they do care. I was thinking, really, you've done all. They're living off that Ramsey video, let's be honest. When he came back, that little put the kettle on, that was brilliant, that was. And they've lived off that since.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I might do, actually. I'm just thinking, I'm going to put the next episode of The Rebuild is going to be out tomorrow night. There'll be something out tomorrow lunchtime. And then on Friday night, I'll put out the Cohen Griffith interview. Why not? Why the devil not? I got a couple more interviews. I got one interview coming up soon, which is real interesting. Well, it's going to be interesting. I haven't done it yet, so I can't tell you about it. But it should be very interesting, should we say. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm also trying to get together a little last-minute live event, which is a bit like it's very much in the balance. But if it happens, it's going to be like in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and it'll sell out real quick. But the best way to get tickets for that is to have be a member, innit? Because you got 24 hours to get the tickets before they go on general sale. Just saying. Right, nice one. As always, it's a pleasure. I'm going to pick out one comment before I turn it off. It's going to be any comment. I'm scrolling through. I'll even let you say stop. You say stop, mate.
Go on, stop.
Bob Banks says he's a great left back in a back five. No
Cheers,
context. Mate. Yeah. Right, nice one. See you tomorrow in a bit. Keep your faith.